Defense will make the closing statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, now that you have seen and heard all the elements of the trial, it is now up to you to make the final decision. Keep in mind that the state will always have the burden of proving our client guilty beyond reasonable doubt. The system of justice calls on the police force to collect every single piece of evidence in order for our jury to make the appropriate decision of guilt or innocence. It is their job to be thorough with their investigations so they can convict guilty men. The police also must be impartial to make sure the trier of fact is provided with the best evidence to make their decision. It is important to convict guilty, but it is equally important not to convict innocent men. Despite the police knowing these responsibilities, they did not conduct a thorough or impartial investigation. They did not process important pieces of evidence, such as testing DNA on the sweatshirts in the dumpster and apartment. They also did not test the gun in the apartment. They did not examine the door that was kicked in for shoe prints, and they did not find the safe or the 9mm handgun that was used to shoot. Any of these items could have the evidence to incriminate the guilty. The police chose not to collect any of these crucial evidence. None of the state's witnesses provide testimony that was sufficient to overcome this lack of evidence either. Homer Handy only knows that the robber was of similar build, height, and eye color. It is only logical that he would think of Mr. Johnson when he saw him a few hours earlier. When he did see him, he was not trying to avoid him and was not trying to act nervous like someone who was planning to rob him. Mr. Gump has already stated that the person he was struggling with did not have a goatee and appeared to have a tattoo. Perhaps more importantly, the strength of the man he fought with was not consistent with someone who works out regularly and wrestles with all thoughts. The only thing Mrs. Berger knows is that one of the robbers was similar in size to the person that was in the store earlier. Ms. White cannot identify any of these men or the vehicle that she saw on the time of the incident. There was nothing in her testimony that incriminated our client in any way. Ms. Walker simply testified that the man she saw dumping his trash his behavior was completely inconsistent with someone who had just committed a heinous robbery. On the contrary, he acted just like all of the other people who had done the same thing as a result of his difficult conduct. The only reason she called the police was because of his recent trend. Our client's own behavior was not consistent with that of people who had just committed a crime. They did not object to having their car or apartment searched. They spoke freely to the police. They did not hide evidence that could possibly incriminate them. Finally, if you are to believe that our clients committed this crime, you must also believe that these three young men were sophisticated enough to commit this crime without leaving one single piece of physical evidence behind. This itself is simply incredible. The state has failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Leroy Little, Augie Johnson, and Myron Waters committed this crime. We ask you to return a verdict of not guilty for each and every one of our clients. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've now heard the facts presented in the aggravated robbery case against Jomo, Duff, Johnson, and Goodlow, as well as the case against Mercury Bars charged with conspiracy in the aggravated robbery case.